Everyone, welcome back to a new exciting episode of Path to Code, which is episode 15, Basics of JavaScript. Like we know, it's 25 weeks curriculum, and it just feels like we started a few weeks back, but this is already 15th week of our session. About myself, I am Jitendra Jha. I'm a Salesforce MVP, Senior Technical Architect. You can follow me on Twitter at Jitendra Jha. I have around 23 Salesforce certifications. As we all know, some of the rules, please mute your mic if you're not speaking. Keep adding questions on the group chat where the group and the panel is going to monitor and they are going to answer it. If there is no answer, I would be taking those questions in last 15 minutes. And again, don't be afraid. Every question is important question. Agenda. So what we are going to cover today. So before starting with the basics of JavaScript, of course, we do need to understand what is JavaScript, what is history behind that. And then we are going to cover some of the topics like hoisting, what is the difference between var, let, and constant, how many ways we can write a function, what is arrow function, recursion, what is memoization, and promises, followed by question answer. So let's talk about history of JavaScript. So story starts in 1995. Brendan H, he created a language in just 10 days, and the name of the language was Mocha. He was working in Netscape that time, and he had a huge pressure to add a Java capability on the browser. So instead of creating a Java language, he just created another language which he thought is a good idea, lightweight compared to Java, and he named that language as Mocha. Soon after the Mocha was launched, officially it was named as LiveScript. However, to piggyback on the popularity of Java, like I said, they renamed LiveScript to JavaScript, and everything is happening still in 1995. And so many companies started using JavaScript, or at least adding JavaScript in their roadmap, in their product. However, Microsoft realized that it might be the trademark issue in the future. So instead of using a JavaScript, they launched their own version of JavaScript and they named it as a JScript. So now as we can see, Microsoft is having their own version. Brendan is having their own version, Netscape, right? And there's many more other companies as well. And then there was a problem. Of course, you cannot have a separate copy. There has to be standardization and everything. So that's how Mocha became LiveScript, and LiveScript became JavaScript in 1995. And then worried about the future and the standardization, like I said, ECMA Group was introduced, and they were responsible to decide the features and the capability of language. And then in 1996, ECMAScript was trademarked by the group, and ECMAScript, you will hear ECMAScript multiple times or JavaScript multiple times, but ECMAScript is nothing but group of standardization, or the group who is going to decide the standard on the JavaScript. So now, after the 1996, when the ECMA group was founded, ECMAScript was trademarked. ECMAScript 1 was launched in 1997. Then nothing happened in 1998. It was just some editorial changes. And then after 2 years, in 1999, ECMAScript 3 was launched, and regular expressions capability were added, try catch were added. If you're coming from a little bit programming background, you know, in that time in 1990s, almost all of the language had the compiler. They needed to compile assembly level language or machine level language, bytecode would be generated or code would be generated, not in JavaScript. JavaScript does not need any compiler. Okay, all you have to do is write and it would be interpreted. So that was the unique about JavaScript that time. After 1999, almost 10 years, there were a lot of disagreements between the community, what to release, what not to release. And ECMAScript 4 never released. For the 10 years, I still remember I was in 2008, and from all my seniors and everywhere, I was hearing, oh, JavaScript is going to die. There is no new release or anything. However, in this 10 years, a lot of new frameworks, libraries came into the picture. And two to mention. One is Ajax, which is how to make a synchronous JavaScript call. Mostly the REST API or API call from the JavaScript. And then another libraries, there are many, but one of the important is jQuery. So because of these library, they bridge the gap that whatever was not supported using JavaScript, these libraries were there. And these libraries helped to keep the momentum of JavaScript. Even though 10 years nothing was released, JavaScript still had their momentum. Then comes 2009, and that's where ECMAScript 5 released, or you can say JavaScript 5. And a lot of capability got added like array, JSON, strict mode. And after 6 years, 2015, ECMAScript 6 was launched. So that's all about the history. Pretty interesting. As you can see, in 1999 to 2009, almost 10 years, it felt that JavaScript is going to die. However, in 2009, I guess 9 or 10, Node.js was launched. So it just gave a soul to JavaScript. A lot of companies started utilizing JavaScript, and today's world, JavaScript is one of the prominent and one of the most important language to be used. The big companies big companies are alive just because of JavaScript. Our applications like Salesforce Lightning application is completely JavaScript behind the screen. So JavaScript is very important. Adding JavaScript in your resume is of course going to help you. And of course, as a developer, it is going to help you build application in Salesforce as well. Let's talk about the basics of JavaScript now. So a lot of theory happened. And what we are going to do is we are going to talk about what is hoisting. Okay. So basically, if you see my diagram, whenever you're writing any JavaScript, so for an example, you can see the left side and the right side. Okay. I took this screenshot from the Twitter user like Tyler, and what it basically explains that there are two phases in execution in JavaScript. One is creation and one is execution. So as you can see, we have declared two variables, name and handle. And in the get user method, we are returning name and handle. If you see behind the scene, what is happening during the execution is Salesforce declares, JavaScript declares a global object. And as it is just creation mode, name and handle would be defined as undefined. And then there is a get user function. Even though in the name and handle, you're assigning something, by default, it's undefined. And then it starts executing line by line, and then it assigns name, a styler, and then that's Twitter handle. So this concept where undefined is assigned to a variable is known as hoisting. So this is the official definition. Okay, the process of assigning variable declarations a default value which is undefined during the creation phase is called hoisting. So let's see how hoisting works. Okay, in the demo. So what I will do is I will create a folder. Okay, do I have the code up? I have, and I will say so. Where is it at? 715. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a demo0.html. I'm using Visual Studio, and then all I'm doing here is so very basic. I'm trying to do here is I'm going to. This is the basic HTML. So in the previous session, right, Abhilasha explained what are the basic of HTML. So we have a header tag. This tag is not used by any browser or any, it is only used by mostly used by search engine. And then body part is what is going to be visible. And there is a script part. So any JavaScript which you want to write, that has to be in a script. And what hoisting means is, let's say there is a variable, let's say I want to print something in the browser window. Let's say I'm saying A, and I'm saying A equals to 10, and then again I'm going to print console.log A. So basically what just happened, this is a very simple example of writing a JavaScript. Today I'm just going to take the help of HTML. Same would work in the Salesforce as well. Lightning Web Component, which session we have is the next week. So in the script, all I did is console.log means printing something on the browser, and I will say h1 tag hello world. So this would be displayed. Anything inside script would not be displayed on the browser. So let's open this one. So as you can see, hello world is here. If I inspect an element and if I go on console, so again, if anybody wants to see how I got, so in the Google Chrome, you right click here and say inspect. This toolbar will appear. In the console section, as you can see, in console section, basically you will get all the output and everything. So as you can see, there is an error in my code where it says A is not defined. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say variable A, okay, and then refresh the page. Now as you can see, when I created a variable, by default the value was undefined. So this concept is nothing but the hoisting. Now you might be thinking that why I am explaining the hoisting. So there is a reason for that. So basically, if you can see on line number 13, I declared a variable and I said that variable type is var. And because of that, by default, right now I have not initialized it. So it is saying undefined. I assign some value as a 10, and then it is going to print that. One important thing in the JavaScript as compared to Salesforce or Apex is you don't define variable as a type. You don't say like integer. You don't say as a string. All you have to say is var, okay, which is a dynamic as Salesforce or JavaScript will internally assume that what is its data type. So that's simple hoisting. However, in JavaScript, you can declare a function using variable function. I will say demo var1. Okay, and what we can say is console.log. I will say hello world, and I can just, if I execute this as it is, nothing is in output, because what happened is you have just created a function, but we have not called that function. So to call the function, we have to say demo variable1, and now let's see what happens. So now you can say hello world is printed. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So let me go ahead and continue with this example only. So what I will do is, let's assume that I'm defining console.a here, a equals to 10 here, and then I'm saying console.log, and let's try to print a again. Let's see if I'm going to get any error or not. So if I reload, okay, it's saying that variable a is not defined, right? Exactly same error which we had previously. All I have to say is variable a, and wait. Okay. It's a case sensitive. It's a small case. So now as you can see, so see, this is the tricky one, right? Even though I have not declared variable at here, it should be giving me a proper error, right? But it is not giving me error. It is doing hoisting here. Okay, it is defining variable a as undefined. Then it assign variable here, and declared here, right? Now this is the problem. I mean, you might be happy that, okay, it is great, we are not getting any error, but really this is a problem because the scope of var in JavaScript is a function block, okay? So to overcome this problem, right, this is clearly a problem. It should not happen like this. You should get an error on the line number 15, which is not happening, okay? Now, the another problem here is, let me create this function again and do something like this. So if I do something in the block can be any type, like function block, class block, if block. So I'm saying if, let's assume true, it is always true. I'm saying variable a equals to 10, okay? And I'm trying to print console.log here. So here is again, technically variable a scope should only be here, right, inside if, and I'm trying to access variable a here. So I should get an error, right? So if I try to execute this method, variable 2, reload the page, you see I'm not getting an error. Again, don't be happy, okay? Because this is a problem, clearly. Because the scope of the variable should have been here. So to resolve this problem, JavaScript introduced a new keyword saying instead of variable, use a word let. So let's solve these two problems. So number one problem, you cannot use this variable before declaring it. So that means here you will get error in let, and here also you should get an error because a is not defined here. Let's try. So if you see here, HTML line number 24, here it is, we are properly getting an error, and if you see the error, a is not defined. If I call method 1, again I'm getting an error, and if I click here, this time I'm getting error here. So this is exactly what we want. So what is the moral of the story? What did we learn? We learned is in JavaScript, do not use var as a variable declaration. Always use let. That is the best practice. That is the difference between var and let. And now there is another identifier, which I will say demo 3 is something like this. So let's say you declare a variable 10 and you print the variable, let's say a here. Now, there is a scenario, right, where you don't want anyone even to accidentally change value of a. In that case, where you don't want value to be changed, you want value to be assigned only first time. Declare that using identifier constant, const, const. Now what will happen is it will work here because it's a first time assignment. First time you assigned a value in a, but here it should give an error. So let's try that. I will call demo 3. If I reload this, I go console. So you see assignment to constant variable. This is exactly what I want. I don't want any accidental assignment to the variable. So that is the basic difference between var, let, and constant. As a thumb rule, as a best practice, whenever you're defining any variable in JavaScript, use a keyword let. Okay. How did we define the function? In JavaScript, very easy. We used the keyword function, name of the function, opening bracket, opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, and then curly braces. That's how we normally write a function in JavaScript. If we go back in our slide, so we just finished demo 1. So var is a function scoped, okay? And it is undefined whenever we are accessing a variable before it is declared. So this is exactly, we saw problem here. So the next version of the var, which is a good practice, we should always use let instead of var, is it is scoped to block. What is meaning of block scope is if you have declared something inside this block, which is line number 21 to line number 23, you cannot access this variable outside. This is exactly what we want. Okay, like I always said, if you hear me on the path to code or anywhere or any of my presentation, having an error during the development, during the testing is always the best case, instead of your client catching you an error on the production, and it saves you from that embarrassment. So early error is always good for you. So let is a keyword which is going to help you to get early error. Now then another is a constant. This is also block scoped, next version, and it will give you an error if you try to assign another value in that variable. So that's all about, this is exactly the basic of the variable types that we can have in JavaScript. Again, there is no variable type integer, string, double, decimal, float. Okay, you just declare the variable on the basis of first value, whatever you, so this variable JavaScript will automatically consider it as an integer. If you do something like this, JavaScript will consider it as a string. If you do something like this, JavaScript will consider this as an boolean. If you do something like this, JavaScript assumes it as an array. If you do something like this, JavaScript assumes this as an object. Okay, so pretty smart. You don't have to worry about, right? Just you define a variable, you assign it a value. Whenever you assign a value, JavaScript will identify what it needs to get a meaning from it. So let's go on the demo 2. How many ways we can write a function in JavaScript? So let's see. I will create another class, demo1.html, just to be on safer side. VS Code, all you have to see is HTML5 automatic, everything is saying. I will say demo2 here. Same way in body, I will write script tag here. Okay. And let me save this. So the one way to declare a function is, let's say I have to echo, instead of echo, I will say print. So this is one way to say. I will say console.log. And again, as we all understood, console.log means it is not going to print. Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. Console.log means it is not going to print anything in the user interface. Okay. It is going to print in the console, and to get the console of the developer tool, you have to right click on the document, click on inspect, and then go on the console. Okay. There is a Control-Shift-J shortcut as well if you're interested. So this way of writing a function we already understood. The another way to write a function is this. You declare a variable, or you can say let, it's up to you, and you can say print2, and you can say this print2 is actually a function, and it is going to say console.log say 2, and it says 1. So this is the method 2 to write any function. Okay, so in this method, what we did is we assign a function to a variable. Another way to do is, which is method 3, which is not much common, is you can say window dot print3, and here you can say same way function. I will say 3, and all I have to do now is call these functions one by one. So I will call print1, and I will call print1, sorry, I will call print2, and then I will call print3. Let's see if this works. File name is, okay, print3 is not defined. Okay, W capital. So the problem here is it is a case sensitive, so we have to make sure it's not capital W, it's a small w. So this is the three ways we can write a function. Okay, my favorite way is method 2, and I will give you the reason later in demo that why method 2 is the preferred way. However, none of these methods are wrong. You can certainly use it. However, method 3 sometimes create a problem, at least in the Aura component. If you have a little bit background, Salesforce Aura component have blocked some of the JavaScript component because of the security issue, like service locker. And so method 3 might work, might not work, but method 2 and method 1 is always going to work. So that's all about demo 2. Let's go on. So we saw what are the different ways to write a function. Now this is very important. Sequence of method, does it matter? Does it matter? Very important to learn. If I do something like this, so I called print1, print2, and print3. However, I have not declared them. I have declared them after it. So the question is, will this go through or it will give an error? Anyone? So let's try. So if you see, print1 went properly because this is a variable, right? Sorry, this is a normal method. However, how we did print2 is we assigned a variable let. And as we have assigned a variable, we cannot call print2 here. We have to call print2, and that makes sense, right? Because you are declaring a variable here, so you have to use a variable only after the declaration, which is here. However, there is no variable here, normal function, it worked out. Let's see what happens to print3. As you can see, print3 also behaving the same because print3 is attached to window, which is a parent DOM. So you cannot do print3 here as well. Now try. Now you can see print 1, 2, 3. So what we just learned, if you're using a method 1, means you are defining a method in a classical way using function method, then doesn't matter wherever you write a method, it is going to be executed properly. However, if you follow method 2, which is assigning a function to variable, and this is something very new to someone, like it was very new for me initially, coming from the Java background, we cannot assign a method to a variable in Java. However, we can do in the C#, right? So if you are coming from those background, this method 2 might surprise you, did to me, but it is possible in JavaScript, as we can see. And then method 3. So we cannot use these methods if we have not declared until we are going by classic method declaration. So that's the demo 3. There is a lot exciting demo ahead, right? Demo 4, recursion. So before going on the recursion, okay, let me recap what we learned in HTML and the CSS. Now the problem here is, right, why should I have hey there 1, 2, 3 here? Why cannot I print it here, right? I don't want to go here, right, and say inspect, and I want some output here, how I can do. So let's learn the power of JavaScript now. So what I can do is I can say div, I will assign an ID here. I will say div placeholder. You can give whatever the name you want to give here. What I will do is I will declare a function here. I will say show message, and I will pass a parameter here, msg. Now what I want to do is, I want to do something like this, document dot get element. So what is the document? When you say the document in JavaScript, document means everything here, okay? And in this document, you're trying to find this div element. So I'm saying document dot get me an element which has an ID, and ID is this one, div placeholder. In this ID, what I want to do is in the inner text. So this div, so that means this portion, this is inner text. Okay, in this inner text, I want to assign whatever the message. Now all I have to do is, instead of console.log, I will use the show message. So now team, see what we are doing, like the building blocks. First we understood HTML. We know what is HTML. Now in HTML, we are writing a JavaScript, and in that JavaScript, we are controlling what to display here. Now if you can see, it is displaying hey there 3. Now there is a problem, right? So what happened to this inner text? Okay, what happened to hey there 1, 2, and why it is happening 3? And the reason for that is, every time you call this method, it is going to completely replace the inner text by the new value. Now we don't want this behavior. So what we are going to do is, we are going to read the inner text as it is, and then we are going to add message. So whatever the old value plus new value, and we are assigning that value again in the old value. And if I refresh it, you can see everything is there, but again, not very look UI. So what I will do is, in any programming language, \n is a special character which indicates I want to break a line. So now I will do here, reload. As you can see, this is inner text. Hey there 1, 2, 3. So now we don't have to go in inspect. We don't have to go on console, identify what is happening. So just think through what we just did. We combined JavaScript with HTML to get something very dynamic, very unique. Okay, but again, I'm not really happy with how it is being displayed. Let's use our skills of a style sheet. So in a style sheet, you have to write a style in style tag. Again, style tag is not visible. Now what I'm saying is, any div tag declared in my document should have background color. Black is my favorite, so I will say black, and I will say foreground color. That means the text color is white. Let's do that. Sweet. But the problem, right? There is no, I want some space extra at the top. So I will say padding top. I want 50 pixel blank or extra space at the top. So now you can see, oh, 50 is too much. So I will say 20. Same way I will say padding left side is again 20 pixel. Again, don't worry about all this style sheet and everything. You don't need to remember it. You can go on to w3school.com, various forums to get started, and you will know what are the how these things are working behind the scene. So I said top 20 pixel, left 20 pixel. I want space at the bottom also. So I will say padding top left, say bottom also 20 pixel. And if I reload it, sweet. So see what we just did. We combined our HTML skill. We combined our cascaded style sheet skill, CSS, and then we combined our JavaScript skill, and slowly we are creating an element. If you don't want this black color, no problem. I remember some of the color which I normally use, which is hash CCC, okay, and I can remove this. And if I reload it, it seems pretty simple. If you want to give a rounded circle, okay, so let's give some margin here. So now you understand what is a padding. If I say margin as, let's say 50, let's say 100 pixel. Let's see what that means. So that means space top 100 pixel, here 100 pixel, and here 100 pixel was added by the cascaded style sheet. Let's assume I have to add the rounded corner to this box. So I will say CSS rounded corner to div. Let's see what it comes up. I can simply go on w3school.com, like I said. There is a property border radius. All I have to do is here border radius, and I will say, let's assume that border radius is 20 pixel. Class this. If I reload, as you can see, rounded corners. So see how sweet, simple the combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we learned over the last few weeks, we are able to create an application. And same this code, we can of course leverage in the Lightning Web component. So that's it for this demo. Let's see what do next we have. Oh, so we have a recursion. So the recursion is calling function itself again and again. So let's assume, again, I'm going to create a demo2.html, and I'm going to again follow same HTML. We'll automatically generate everything. I will say recursion demo, and in the recursion demo, I already have a lot of things done. So I will copy this div here as it is, so I don't have to work again. I will say script, and in the script I'm going to reuse this method everywhere, show message. So basically show message is printing everything on the UI instead of console. So let's assume, let's try to understand what exactly is the recursion. Let's assume, so there is a pretty famous example in the JavaScript. Let's say I want to print Hayya. As you can see, I'm printing A multiple times. Okay, I can print A 4 times, I can print 5 times, 6 times. How should I write a method to print this? Very simple. What I will do is, I will create, let's say, create a variable here. When I'm saying this is a class, like I said, now in this class, I'm defining a method saying yell, and I'm using method 2 of writing a function. In method 2, what you do is you write a function assigned to variable. In this case, it's yell. And what I'm saying is, so let's say I'm saying that return. So let's say how many times I want to print A. So I want to print, let's say A, I want to print n number of times. Okay, there are multiple ways to do it. One way is I will say print, okay, and I will say function, I will say message, and I will say return message. And then what I will do is I will say where string or where s equals to something, and I will say a for loop. We already covered a for loop in the previous session, and I will say variable I equals to 0. We want to print it n times, and then I will say I plus plus. All I have to do is st equals to, I will call this method again. I will say print, and I'm going to say a. Okay, so everything is here. Once it ends, I will call this method, which is a show message. And in the show message, I'm going to say, and whatever the number of time here happened. And let's call this, I will say, we already have ninja dot yell. So this is not a recursion. This is a normal way to do it. And I'm saying, okay, let's print here 10 times. Oh, sorry, A in the here 10 times. That's it. And whatever value we are going to get here, show message is going to print. Let's see if it is working. And the file name we have is demo2. So it says undefined, HIY printed properly, okay, but it says st as undefined. Why is that? St equals to st plus. Let's see. Why it is happening? Undefined, undefined. Yeah, so I had to use a keyword this, and I will come to this keyword as well. So this means in this class I am using the print method, okay, and what I'm saying is I want to print hiya, okay. So this is a old way to do it. Now there is a better way to do it. Not a better way, I will say it's a way to, okay, what I will say is variable ninja, I will create a 2, okay, and in that all I have to do is yell function same, I have to print hiya multiple times, okay, and all I have to say is return if, so here again what I will do is I will say variable st equals to this, okay, if n is greater than 0, then what I'm saying here is okay, wait. So all I will say is return if n is greater than 0. So there is a ternary operator, okay. I'm saying call again ninja2 dot yell, and this time for the next iteration, so call it for 5 4 3 2 1, okay, and every time you are calling, keep adding a in the return, and if it's not greater than 0, then all you have to do is hiya, hiy, and that's it. Now all we have to do is what I will do is I will call show message method again, which I already have, and this time I will say ninja2, again I'm saying 10 times, and this is I'm commenting, so this is not getting executed. One minute. I'm going to remove everything from dev. Let's debug it. I said ninja okay, ninja2 dot yell. I missed that, so I have to call the yell method. Now as you can see, yeah, that's how it happened. So now compare how much line of code we have written in old way and how quickly we have done using the recursion. So the recursion is mechanism to call a method again and again. So what is happening is you're calling method yell again and again, and every time you're calling the method, you are keep appending a. So you're returning every time a, okay, and at the final you are saying hey, yeah. So that's all a recursion. Let's talk about the next arguments dot callee. So arguments dot callee again is a very simple one line itself is when you want to call same method or the calling method itself. So instead you are calling yell method itself, right? So instead of doing this, we can also do like this, arguments dot, that's it. Try again. You can see this is exactly same output. If I want to print, let's say 20 times, yeah, exactly. So that's how it is. Okay, just to explain a little bit more about how the recursion works, right? Take the Excel sheet example here. Okay, so you said that you want to call method L, let's say 10 times. Okay, so the first time it executed, it returned A. Okay, that was the, let's say 10th time it returned A. It executed 9th time and it returned A plus A. Then 8th time it returned A plus A. So if you see, this is the sequence, 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, it got executed just like this. And at the last, you said that if it is 0, then it should be HIY. So how any programming language executes it, right? So basically it keeps on stack. So how it will execute, how it will print it, it will print the last method output as a first. So in this case, if you see, right, HIY is the last part. And again, to explain the ternary operator looks, and I think Jigar already explained in one of the session, it is something like this. So this is the condition. In our case, condition is the number of times it needs to call is greater than 0. If condition is true, then this section would be executed. If condition is false, then this section. So every time number n is greater than 0, so let's say in 20, 19, 18, 17, every time this would be executed and it would be returned. So return means it would be returning A, 18 times, 20 times. And when the number greater than 0, this is not true, then finally it will return HIY. So it will print HIY plus A. That is the concept of recursion. So I hope recursion we understood. Now very important functionality, which is arrow function. And I think it is pretty new for a lot of people because this is part of ES6, which is like just 4 years back in 2015. So there was a survey that out of the ES6 feature, which feature is mostly used by the developer. And if you see, this is the voting by 2LET.com. If you see, 70% of the JavaScript developer, advanced developers, are using arrow functions. And if you see, modules pretty famous in Node.js, pretty famous in the Lightning Web component, which we are going to have the next session. Module is famous as well. Let constant, we already studied today that what is let and what is constant. Where was from the very beginning as a best practice. Again, to recap, we should use a let. Okay, and then promises. So we already covered let constant. We are going to cover arrow function. We are also going to cover promises. Now the question is, what is arrow function? Okay, so arrow function, this is the normal. Okay, so let me create. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse this JavaScript itself. Okay, so let's create a method to add the two numbers. So I'm saying variable add to num. We have to declare function. This is the old way. So let me write it down to avoid the confusion. Okay, and in function I'm saying x comma y, and all we have to do is return x plus y and let's print it. So I will say show message. So we want to, let's say, add 2 plus 3, and the value is, we are going to call 2num. So basically 2 plus 3, anything which you write in single quote becomes string, and in this string 2 plus 3 equals to, we want this method to call. This method needs two variable, two number. I'm going to pass 2 and 3. Okay. And if I go back here, you can see 2 plus 3 equals to 5. This is the old method. Okay. Now, how to write an arrow method? Writing arrow method is again very simple. I will say where add to number, let's say arrow. Okay. Now, number one, you don't need to write a function keyword. So what I will do is, I will copy it as it is. You cannot write a keyword function, and after x comma y, you have to use an arrow symbol equals to sign and this one. That's it. So now, if I do like this, let's see how it looks like. And this is not old method, this is arrow method. So this is the syntax basically. I will come again that why we want to do that, but this is a pretty simple syntax comparing one by one. So you don't use a keyword function, you just remove the function, and after the curly, the parentheses, use this symbol, arrow symbol, and that is the reason this is named as an arrow method. If we go back on our slide, so on the left hand side is the old method, and on the right hand side is the new method. Okay. So let's try to understand what exactly the problem resolved by this. Okay. So what I will do, so to show that, I need to, what I can do is, so before that, okay, let's see how classes can be defined in the JavaScript. Okay. So I will say class, I want to define a class person. Again, like I said, objects or the classes in the curly bracket. If you want to write a constructor, writing a constructor is different than in JavaScript than writing a constructor in Apex. So don't get confused. I am saying this dot name equals to whatever the name we are going to pass. Now what I want to do is, I want to print the name. Let's assume print name equals to, again, I'm going to write a function here. And let's say that there is a huge processing going in the background, right? And you don't want your user to wait, and you want to call a synchronous function. Okay, something like that. Which is, so what we can do, there is a method in JavaScript named as a set time out. It takes two parameters. Second parameter takes after how much time you want to execute this method. So I'm saying execute this method after 1 second. Okay, and then I'm saying what you want to do after 1 second. So after 1 second, okay, all I want to do is show message. Okay, I will say name in classic method. Whatever the name this class has, this dot name. That's all I want to do after 1 second. Now let's execute this one. Okay, all you have to do is let p equals to new person. Let's say new person name is Jitendra. Okay, and you want to see p dot print name. If I reload this page, you see, again, let me reload. After 1 second, this is getting executed and name is blank. Now this is really a problem, okay, in a classic method. So in the classic method, whenever there is a asynchronous execution happens, so set timeout is asynchronous. So as you can see on the screen, right, everything got executed. If I say show message here. I'm saying show message, last message in code. So everything is executing in sequence. However, here we are saying, okay, don't execute in sequence, execute it after 1 second. So even though last message is the last message in code, however, after 1 second, it is coming back and it is trying to do something asynchronously. And that is where this keyword doesn't work. Okay. So how arrow function can be helpful here? So if I want to rewrite same in the arrow function, how should I write? So I will say print in arrow, and we know the sequence. So we don't need to write a function keyword. Just write a bracket, opening and closing parenthesis, and then body. And here I want to say set timeout. We already do, like I said, set timeout takes 2 parameters. One is after how much time you want to print it. So I'm saying print it after 2 seconds. And then again, I have to write a function. So again, I'm not going to write a classic function. I will write a named function. Again, bracket, arrow here. And I'm going to write same thing here. Okay, let's see how the thing works. So last message in code, name is blank. Wait. Name in arrow method, and I have to say it. Exactly. So this is the very specific problem solved by arrow function. So there's two things. One, a new way to write it, and second, for the asynchronous processing, especially the application like Node.js, right? If you become advanced JavaScript programmer, you go on Node.js, even in the Lightning Web Component, right? Calling an Apex class or Apex method is asynchronous. If you have a knowledge of arrow function, you would be saving a lot of your trouble. Okay? So that's all about that one. Now, very last example I want to cover, and which is again very important one. Okay, so memoization I'm going to skip. I will provide the URL on the Twitter. It's a very simple logic. Okay, promises is very important, which I want to cover, and I will not take more than 5 minutes. But this is something, again, it is related to asynchronous. Okay, so just promises in the real life. Promises in JavaScript also have a 3-step. Promise means just like in real life, a mom promised to his kid that, okay, I'm going to give you an iPhone next week. Okay, now that's a promise. There is only 2 possible outcome. Either mom's mood is very good next week and really I'm going to get an iPhone, or she's not happy and the plan is cancelled and it is rejected. This is exactly what in JavaScript. And this is very helpful in the long processing. So you don't, so just like in this example, if you see here, right, even in this example, right, whatever the last code in my JavaScript, it was not hold back because of these two was going to take a lot of time. What we told, okay, take whatever time you want to do, but all my remaining code should execute as it is. As you can see, all my remaining code is executing whenever they are ready to execute. Okay, this is, so there, right now I have a 2 method. There are chances that your JavaScript has a 10 method or 5 method, and you have a lot of methods like, so these kind of the methods are known as a callback. Callback means execute asynchronously once it's available, and having so many callback creates a lot of problem, and that is also known as a callback hell, when you are having a callback inside callback inside callback inside callback. So how the promises is going to help? Okay, so I'm going to create a demo3 dot html file. I will say promises demo. Again, I'm going to copy, in fact, everything here to here. and I will close the script tag because we already have everything ready here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a promise. Okay, so in the promise I will say variable is mom happy, and I will say yes, mama is happy. And again, as per the best practice, instead of where, let's use let. So what I will do is I will create a method saying will I get iPhone. So this is the variable. Now what we have to do is we have to use a new keyword and say this is the promise. Okay. Now this promise is going to take a function, and this function outcome can only be two outcomes. So this function is either it is going to be resolved or it is going to be rejected. So in case it is going to be resolved, I will call a resolve method and I will say I got an iPhone. But when did I get iPhone? If my mom is happy. So if this is not happening, if my mom is not happy, then it is going to be rejected. And I will say mom is not happy. That's why it got rejected. Very simple but very powerful approach. I'm trying to explain it in very simple example, but in real life it solves a huge problem. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable ask mom, what happened. So mom is going to promise me. So I will ask, hey mom, will I get an iPhone next week? And so this is the method, will I get iPhone? If I get iPhone successfully, then this method is going to be executed, or there is going to be an error. If mood is not good, then it will come in catch block. That's it. Now every function, so if you observe resolve and reject, we pass a parameter string. So this parameter is going to be captured here, function message. In fact, I will say function success, and here I will say function error. And all I will do is show message again, because we have written that message, and we will just print that message success, or if this message is not there, I will say error. So this is demo 3. My mom's mood is happy. Okay, demo 3. Okay, perfect. So now all we have to do is just call this method, because we have not executed, we have just declared it. I will say like this. So I got an iPhone. A simple promise that was fulfilled. But again, try to understand, will I get iPhone? This method is supposed to be very heavy method, going to take a lot of time, okay, because this is in future, this is asynchronous, right? Just for the demo purpose, I made it simpler. If mom is not happy, it's false. Reload, mom is not happy. So this is very simple example of promises, but when the promise is helpful. Now the promise would be helpful if you want to write, so in normal world, okay. So you have a function callback, let's say I'm writing a pseudocode callback 1, okay, and I am long running process calling AWS API. Then after success, call back 2. Okay, then I will have a function callback to, same, long time, and then I say after success, callback 3, and so on. So now this is becoming a callback hell. In the long processing, after one, you're trying to execute something very hard to read, very hard to maintain. Now here, all I have to do is, if I want to do the callback, all I have to do is then, as it is. Again, I have to say then some more method here. I will say more method response here, more method. That is the power of promises. Advanced one. And again, if you are interested, I can share some of the resources where it would be explaining that what is the power and why do we use the promises. So that's all about promises. A few references, right? So Secret of JavaScript, very good, written by John Resig. I would really recommend go through that post. There is a post on hoisting where I took a screenshot, and there is also a post on arrow functions. I also have few YouTube video. Maybe I can share after this session, okay, on my website, and where you can have some more idea about it. Before Q&A, just remember the next session, episode 16. It is getting started with Lightning Web Component, and we are going to use all our understanding and learning which we did, which is in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, put together on how do we create a Lightning Web Component using all these concepts. So let's jump on questions. Let's go one by one. So from Adrian, Jitendra, why you're using wheres instead of lets? Adrian, you're right. That was my mistake. We should never use where as per the best practice. Always use a let. Okay. Sumant, how does here get appended at the beginning of the string? So Sumant, I think I explained in the Excel sheet, right? The recursion works as a stack, which is a first in, last out, or last in, first out. So as Haya executed last, it would be printed first. So that is just a data structure of stack. That's how the recursion works. I think Adrian already answered that.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, Adrian is to the point, right? So recursion sometimes is confusing, right? But very simple way to remember recursion is a stack. So basically, let me explain, right? Once more that what does mean by stack. So they have multiple data types in programming language. One data type is stack. So what will happen is A got printed, then A. So let's say I'm printing Haya, A. And at the last, I printed HIY. Now how it is going to, recursion is going to happen is HIY will appear first. So it is gone. Then it will read A, this is gone. Then it will read A, this is gone. So see what is happening. Whatever the element came last, those are executing first. So this is the one of the reason I will say sometimes recursion gets confusing. But if you remember this concept, recursion is pretty easy. Okay. I don't see any other question. So we went 10 minutes, 11 minutes over the time. Thank you so much, team, for joining me and having me today's session. Post your questions on Twitter, on my website, on Path to Code website, YouTube. I will share slide. Any feedback, they are welcome. We do have some of the great ideas. So 10 more weeks to go. And after that, we will decide that Path to Code, what needs to be done here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.